Hey, what is up? What's happening? Welcome. Super excited to be on here. Got a really good show. Got a really good show for you here today. And just excited. Not just a good friend, but someone I really look up to, someone that has helped a lot of people. I know that we really focused in on, how he, paved his driveway and gold bricks and, how he's made, bajillions of dollars. But the truth is he's helped a lot of people too. He's helped a lot of people too. And that's the name of the game. And so let me know, you excited? You excited to hear this? He's going to be sharing, my guest today is going to be sharing his number one secret. And he just shared with me that what he's about to talk about, he actually hasn't shared in this way in years, And so pretty cool. He's going to share his number one secret. What is that? What is that thing that he's had in his little treasure box, or what is it? What is that number one secret to his $58 million of commissions in network marketing, to him helping 66 people become millionaires in the network marketing space? This is going to be a big one for you. It's going to be a big one for you. I'm super excited for it. And so drop a one if you're excited. You excited? You got a teammate you need to tag? Drop a one. Let's get the party started. Let's get you all warmed up, ready to go. And then I'll bring them out here. All right. Seeing some ones. And so the gentleman I'm about to bring out here, he's an author, a speaker, a personal coach. He's a mentor to thousands, if not tens of thousands. He's got a give it forward philosophy, and he's someone that I've had the pleasure of working closely with, and I've learned from him and just really marveled at his success and just applauded him the whole way. And he's just awesome. And I don't know if you saw our skit together, but we had a good time doing that, and I hope you enjoyed that as well. And while I bring him on here, because I'm going to bring him out right now, let's see if we can get the likes to match the attendance. I don't think that's a huge ask, but let's pay him some homage. Let's give him some gratitude. Please help me welcome the man, the legend, Robert Hollis. Robert, how are you?
Blessed and highly favored and deeply loved. How are you, Ray?
Yeah, very nice. Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, good to see you. Thanks for coming out here. A lot of people liked our skit, apparently. That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I haven't done that. So again, Coach Ray, thank you for challenging me.
Absolutely. And so first, I think before we dive right into give that secret away, like just tell us a little bit of like, how did you get into the network marketing space? Like what was that like?
Well, it was, and the short word is surrender.
Okay.
But here, there's a number of times through our life where we, ego edging got out. We just got it all going. And I always joke with people. I say, if you would have known me when I was, in my 20s, before 27, if you didn't know that I knew it all, you just needed to ask me, because I would have told you. And my income did that. I learned some stuff that I'll share later on that, I very simply asked and prayed for guidance. And the next thing I know, I'm not in North Dakota or Montana anymore. I'm in California. I'm working for a billionaire named Roger Penske and working in the number one car dealership in the world as an auto mechanic. And man, I was the bomb. Everyone I was surrounded by, I was making more money then. I really, really love giving, God all the glory for that. And then you got to be careful what you pray for, because I just felt unfulfilled. I really did. I had gotten a lot of accomplishments and a lot of accolades from what I was, but I felt unfulfilled because I really wasn't helping anybody. It was like I was able to do this sort of like a boxer or an MMA fighter. I had a lot of accolades for myself, but yeah, I can't teach everyone to be the kind of automotive engineer or mechanic I was. And so I just basically just said, "Hey, God, listen, you allowed this to happen in my life. Anything you want me to do, I'm there." And I was thinking, maybe doing Bible study, maybe, some of the stuff that would fit in my schedule.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's convenient,
Yeah. And what happened, to show you how smart I
like
am.
preferably on a Tuesday. I'm not busy
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. I even got a time slot open, and all of a sudden, what happened is, show you how smart I am. Is we were working on a Toyota van at Toyota Research and Development, and all of us were pretty fast. We were always practicing our speed and our efficiency. So we all pulled 4 tires off this Toyota van at the same time, and it's a front engine, front wheel drive. And the van started tipping on the hoist because all the weight was in the front. And my first thought is to drop the tire and stop the vehicle from falling. I lost. It pinned me against my toolbox and hyperextended my right leg all the way to the ground. It almost
Mm.
amputated it. And the next
Oh,
thing I know, I'm in shock, and they're trying to get this van off of me. And they put me on this stretcher to the emergency room. And this guy in a white coat, you know what I mean, a doctor, an authority figure, lays his hand on my pants and he says, "Oh, you're a Toyota mechanic?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Not anymore." And they were
ouch.
talking about, losing my leg. And then they were saying you'd never be able to support your weight again. And oh my God, what a dark, dark time. And all of a sudden I'm in rehab and I'm like thinking in my mind, I can beat this, right? And they did the surgery wrong. I had to go in for a second surgery. So for 9 months, my income goes from about 5 grand a month take home to $900. And I
Mm.
was leveraged to the max, man. And it's like
That's
this
what
cash.
that's what people that know everything do.
Yeah, yeah. It's like cash flow is never going to stop. You know what I mean? So
Right.
when they started taking my motorcycles and my cars and my big Snap-on toolbox, I had to pawn that, and all of a sudden it got so bad, Ray, that I took my wife, that was my girlfriend at that time, and got her a one-way airplane ticket to fly back to Montana. I told her
Mhm.
straight to her face, "I can't provide for you. I don't know what you're doing. You deserve more than me. Just get out." And then the second thing I did is, I was a single father of my oldest son, Robert Hollis Jr., and his mother abandoned us. And I
Mm.
had to call her up and ask her if she would please take her son for a little while I was trying to get back on my feet. And I'm sitting in this apartment, got the electricity cut off. And I just forgot that I sort of prayed for this. So now I'm all by myself. Bill collectors are calling me, and I say, "Hey, listen, why don't you call me tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, so you can wake me up?" And they go, "Why?" And I go, "Because I don't have electricity, so alarm clock doesn't work." So I was just, man, things were bad, and I started having
Wow.
those really awful thoughts, that I just don't need to be here anymore. It's over. And when it got really bad, then what I did is I got on the one knee that wasn't in a cast, and I surrendered again. And I just raised my hand and I said, "I know I prayed for this. Where do I got to go? What do I got to do?" And I just was bawling for hours. And like 2 days later, I get this call, and it's from a guy I met twice. And he said, "Hey, this is Sean. How you doing?" And I lied to him. I was like, "Oh, everything's going awesome."
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
It's going great. And he's going, "Listen, I met this guy and he showed me his check for $62,000. It was attached to the stub. And he's looking for people to train with his proven training and marketing to expand this company." So he said to reach out to the best people he knew. And I met you. Didn't you work in race cars and stuff? And I said, "Yeah, I used to." He goes, "You don't do that anymore?" I said, "Not right now." And he said, "Would you like to meet this guy?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." And that's when I met my mentor in this industry. And man, And he made me feel good because I only had 2 questions for him, Ray. I said, "What'd you do before this?" He was like 5 years older than me. And he said, I used to install car stereos and work at a tire store. And in my mind, I was going, man, I'm a master automotive technician. I'm going to make millions of dollars. Still had that ego running, right? And then, uh, and then I asked him, how long you been doing this? And he sort of didn't tell me the whole truth. He said, I've been with the company for 6 months. And he had been with Jeff Birdie 2 years prior to that in Herbalife. You know what I mean? So they had all left and went to this NSA company, right place, right time, man. I mean, I just followed them and just did everything they told me. And Bill said to me, always remember to give people an encouraging word, because Bill Gould told me, he looked at me right in the face and he said, well, what do you do? And I told him, and he was going, you are going to crush this. And I said, why? And he says, one, you don't mind mastering the mundane. And I said, I don't even know what it is. And he says, well, what's your fastest job you can do? I said, put a clutch in a 4x Toyota pickup. I said, it pays me 9 hours. I can do it in 45 minutes. And he was going, you do flat rate in this industry, just figuring out the things that you need to do and what you focus on and master on getting effective and efficient with those things, you'll crush this thing. And I went, I believed him. So
some people would have argued and said, no, probably not. Right. Some would have argued for their limitations.
Totally. And my biggest thing also to that was I was coachable. There wasn't any internet. So I didn't even know what this industry was, didn't even know who Amway was. So here was a guy that made 62 grand, and I didn't have to go out and
that was for the month, I assume, is what you're.
What?
He made 62 grand for the month, I assume,
yeah.
or is that,
yeah. And found out later, like Amway in the old days, 50% of that check was supposed to be paid out in rebates. I don't know if he did or not. It's still more than I made, but thank God I didn't know what the industry was, and thank God I didn't have this thought, is I wonder who else could be teaching this, because I only knew one person that made the money. Right. So I don't know what's wrong with people today, that they go, okay, so I plugged in with Ray. He's helped other people make full-time income. So I wonder who else I can follow.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting to me. So
you ran with that company, obviously, learned a ton along the way. Looking back, so that's how you got introduced. You were in a tough spot, which, many of us, were when we came into marketing. So you've now, fast forward, obviously, a few years. Was that 36 years or
36 years?
Yeah. So fast forward 36 years, you've been a top earner or the top earner in several, companies along the way. You've helped a bunch of people, made a bunch of money. So what is this number one secret to all this success that you've had?
Well, I got to go back to the first time I surrendered. And a lot of you will be surprised by this. I was taken away from my parents when I was really, really young. The state, CPS or whatever they call it, took me away because my father abused me in every way possible. Mm. And my mom was also a victim of being beat up. But they looked at her as not being a person that could protect her kids. So my 2 younger brothers went to one foster home and I went to another, and just got passed from foster home to foster home. And I remember to this day, Ray, that, all the stuff that I went to the foster home was in, just a paper bag. And that was it. A couple of changes of clothes, no toys, no nothing. So I got raised in these foster homes, and it was crazy because it just went from one foster home to another, to another, to another. Even one of them, and probably the best one I was in, was on a Indian reservation. Me and one other kid were the only 2 white kids that were in the whole Indian reservation. So when I hear people of minorities talk about the way you're treated, as a minority, I get that big time, even though I got big white skin. and so all of a sudden I got transferred to this big town, Williston, North Dakota. I think it had like 9,000 people. And that was my senior year. And I still to this day don't understand where my head was. I was just trying to find a way to be accepted. I'm the new kid. Everyone's making fun of me and everything. And all of a sudden I just went, don't have any parents, it's just like crazy. And so I'm all of a sudden in this situation where people are talking about a high school party. And I said, wow, where's the high school party? So my thoughts were, let me find a beer distributorship and go down and break into the warehouse and take the semi truck full of beer and take it to the party. I mean, I should be
Be the hero.
This would be awesome, right? And I'm still known in Williston, North Dakota, is the world's Williston's biggest beer bust. So I take this truck and I crossed the borders from Montana to North Dakota, and we had this giant party. It was crazy, and
Wow.
yeah, you wouldn't believe the people were there. And so all of a sudden, my friend comes flying down, and a friend of mine, and he come flying in. He worked at a gas station. He wasn't at the party yet, and he said this Learjet flew into the airport, and he says these 5 guys got off the airplane and they had ATF on the back of their jackets. And that's when I realized that the A standard for alcohol. So, beknownst to me, every can has a number on it that's attached to every case, that's attached to every pallet, that's attached to every truck. And so I had 5 Class C felonies, each one of them punishable of 5 years. So breaking and entering, grand theft auto, transferring alcohol, giving alcohol to minors, and I just turned 18. And so I thought, I did something wrong. I get it. I'm not hiding it, nothing. And they take me down and asked me all this stuff, and then asked me if I wanted to do a plea agreement down to 1 felony, which was 5 years in prison, federal prison. And I said, okay. And so they said they were going to let me finish the high school year. And so I was in school 2 more months, and we had a big study hall where all the 400 kids are for study hall in the morning. They came into the study hall and arrested me in front of all those kids. And off I went to federal prison.
Wow.
And so, so the crazy story about this next part is that I didn't know this. So when I go to a federal prison, they put me in a cell, and I don't have underwear or nothing, just wearing this, orange jumpsuit. And they put you what is called now, they stopped doing this. People went to court for humane tactics, but they put you in what is called the fish tank because they want to watch you because you're a new prisoner, and you're like on suicide watch, right? That's 3 weeks. So I'm in a cell,
like by yourself, solo.
I'm in a cell all by myself.
Wow.
And if you ever see the things on prisons on TV and movies, the 400 inmates in one jail cell is not only 4 stories high, but they put all these cells together on both sides, and then they put a building around it. So if someone is crying anywhere in those 400 cells, you hear it. And you also hear everything else. And so I'm sitting there every day. This guy goes by, a guard, counting me. And then this guy, long hair, he's mopping. And I just kept trying to reach out to him. And he said, just small words. He said, I can't talk to you. And I just went, there's no way I can spend 5 years like this. I didn't know what I did wrong, and they didn't explain it to me. So I guess everybody else gets to go out in population and work and do whatever. But I did something bad enough at 18 where I was stuck in this cell. And that's where I thought I was going to end my life. And the guy walks by and had a small red Testament Bible. It was given by the Gideons. And he walked over and threw that in my cell. And I'm dyslexic. And I read every promise in that book. So when John 3:16 said, if you believe in me, God saved the world. He gave his only begotten son. And I'm going, I want that. I want all of that. And as soon as I started reading it, I didn't have difficulty reading, Ray. I know some people are going to freak out when I tell this story, but when it was called the living word, it was the living word for me. And when I said, I choose you and I want you, I know there's two kinds of group of people that are going to watch this live or recorded. And it's ones that it's a thought, it's a concept. And then there's the other people that experience a total change in who they are.
Yeah.
Bam. It's just like, that you know that you know that you know. And so when you run into people that don't know, man, how do you explain that to them? And so as soon as this happened, I just surrendered all. I just said, I'm going to follow you every day. I want to get close to you. I just remember the promises of saying, lean not on your own understanding. I don't need to know. I just know that if I pull closer to him, he pulls closer to me. The other one I read was just mind-boggling to me that the Old Testament talks about 10 commandments and the New Testament talks about 2. And it's like, put no one before me. And the second one is love everyone like you love yourself. Yeah. I had a huge problem, right? I did not love me.
Yeah.
I did not love me. And I didn't understand that this unconditional love that my creator had for me and that my brother had for me named Jesus. And it was like, I wasn't alone anymore. From that moment, I wasn't alone anymore. It's funny how you can talk to a small child and you say to them, where's Jesus? And they go, right here. Right here. He's in my heart. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And we go from that belief to feeling that belief, to striving for that intimate relationship with Jesus, to he's out there someplace. He's sitting up there with his father and they're both in thrones and stuff. And that's when I really started diving deep. So when I surrendered, all of a sudden I get this guy comes out to me out of nowhere and he says, have you heard of North Dakota State College of Science? It's the #1 tech college in the world. I said, yeah, I was enrolled to go there. And he goes, they're doing a pilot program and they're looking for people that want to go. So I did 2 semesters of trade school to become an automotive engineer in the walls of the federal penitentiary. Wow. I'm like, so then now I'm going up to the parole board 6 months in. And I walk up to them and they go, what judge was sentenced an 18-year-old to 5 years? Now, they didn't know that I pleaded, so I didn't get 25.
Yeah.
And they go, what judge would do that? I said, William Bede of William County would do that. And they go, what are you going to do when you leave here? I said, I'm enrolled in college. I just have to start 5 years later. I'm going to be one of the best auto mechanics you'll ever hear about. And they go, so why'd you do what you did? And I said, there isn't an excuse of what I did. It was wrong. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. And people don't know that, you got to admit where your humility lies, your weaknesses lie. I, for a lot of reasons, did something that they didn't like. And so they asked me to sit outside, and they came in. They said, well, you'll start college in the fall. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you'll start college in the fall. I'm getting out in 6 months. And if you guys know anything about federal sentencing, you do not get cuts in federal. They took 4 years off my sentence. I got out, went straight into college. And within 2 years, Ray, I was written up in the Williston Herald as having the Williston's biggest beer bust to being on the dean's list.
Wow.
At Tech College. So That was the
Wow.
2 times I got written up in the newspapers.
Yeah.
So it was that first surrender and that consistency of there's 44 scriptures in the Bible that talks about closer to me. If you pull closer to me, I'll
Mm.
pull closer to you.
Yeah.
And when I say this next statement, I hope that it rocks you. I hope that it rocks you, because at times in my life when money was an issue in my life, relationships weren't working, I was unhappy, I didn't feel loved, I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I thought about all those things 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, instead of thinking about my relationship and how close I was to God.
Right.
So my constant mind chatter was everything other than surrendering and putting him first.
Yeah.
So whether Old Testament or New Testament. So now when I get up every morning, it's like go to the bathroom, get on my knees. And it's been that way for 43 years. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make a difference where I am. I have to get that connection. And a lot of you might be saying, why on my knees? I believe more than just respect and gratefulness.
Reverence.
It takes you away from everything else. You seem to be able to do anything, your phone, your computer, and some of you might be going, oh my God, what if someone catches me on my knees praying? You know what I mean? Wow, where's that thought coming from? I'll let you play with that thought, because that's the opposite of surrender.
Right.
To think that you'd be embarrassed by what other people's thoughts and opinions were. That those people's thoughts and opinions and what you feel about yourself is even more important than the creator.
Yeah.
It couldn't get further away. It's like
Yeah.
these people, it's like all these people are more important than that personal relationship with God.
Mm.
So I'll say one more
Power.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So now that you know that connection and you force that connection and you make that connection happen, then what's so hard for me to say, dear Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, you know the wisdom that you allow me to have. Please put me in front of those that have ears to hear. Through everyone I connect, allow them to be a doorway to someone that they know is praying for this exact release, this freedom, the way to be able to, not money makes you happy, but you just don't have to deal with despair anymore.
Yeah.
And then you know where it's coming from. So you don't have to worry about being grateful anymore. And so with that prayer and every day surrendering, asking for his energy and his luck and his guidance and his utterance. I even before I get on stage or talk to people before here, right there on my knees,
Yeah.
I just said, give me the words to say and interrupt me. I choose
Yeah.
you. I choose you. If you want to stop me in the middle of the word, or if you felt like I said something that didn't need to be said, make me correct it. I
Mm.
choose you, not me. I choose you. And so it's funny. I didn't know Mark Aceta. And Mark
Yeah.
Aceta
Yeah.
recently spoke at one of our conventions. And he comes up to me and Terry and he says, hey, how are things going? And I was just like, well, same thing, different day. He goes, Robert, same thing, different day is not the same for everybody like it is for you. He says, making millions a year and it just seems effortless for you. And I said, well, I'm lucky. And then he remembered that. So when he got on stage, he goes, my friend Robert Hollis, he's been lucky for a long time. And right, the reason for the trophies, reason for the accolades, the reason for the money, in the freedom is just me mentally making two decisions. One is, God, please connect me with the people that are praying for this, like I was praying for it. You answered my prayers.
Right.
So people are out there. So that's why I remember you and I having that interview about you're going, I don't know if I like that who do you know thing. You know what I mean? Until I explained it to you, and you're the one that said, oh, you look at people as a doorway to the person that needs this. And I
Mm.
went, yeah, I don't care if they get in or not.
Yeah.
And so what my number one person in my group right now was referred to me through a doorway as someone that didn't make a decision to get in. And then 4
Yeah.
years after she was the number one person, that person that referred me, that person is now in my business as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, there's my secret. My secret is it's easy to do this industry when you follow the guidance of something wiser than you, stronger
Yeah.
than you, more
Amen.
powerful than you. I don't know who's been praying for this,
Right.
but he
Amen.
does. He does.
Amen. I love it. I love it.
I mean, how I got in front of you was that same thing.
Yeah.
So I've just always had that thought. Okay, if I'm going to do something, who's the best? So I had a bad situation with a network marketing company. Me being human, I painted the industry as being bad instead of the
Yeah.
person that made the decision. So it's crazy that I've retired 3 times in this industry and that sometimes was even looked at as an MLM hater. You know what I mean? It's like there's a better alternative, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so when I decided that I was going to do a blog and build a group and I mean build a coaching business and do all that, I reached out to Ray and said, "Hey, man," he was nice enough to say, "Why don't you come to this event?" I went to that, and then I hired him. I paid Ray $48,000, and I'm still reaping. I'm
Mm.
still reaping from that investment in you, Ray, and
Wow.
and it's because I wanted to be a brand and have a blog and show people how to do that. And at that time, I just reached out to a few people that you had a significant amount in teaching, like John and Nadia and Mark Hubert and Ray. I was Rodriguez, I think his name was. And I just went, how has Ray affected your life? And what they said about you, my friend, and
Mm.
my coach. I went, Terry, this is the guy that's going to show me the next level. And
Wow.
so
Thank you, man.
once I did that, that's when I realized that my path wasn't following Ray, because when you leave something, that's when something's gone, that's when you go back and go, whoa, I miss having 38,000 people in my group.
Sure. Yeah.
and
Amen.
and it's not because of the freedom of money and no longer being in that mindset where you're thinking about it no more. It's all of a sudden my step up of wanting to be take my life to the next level and start helping kids that were unfortunate like me.
Yeah.
And so when I found out that the government allowed me by law to give away 44% of my income, uh, I knew what I liked to live on. So now I needed to double that income so I could make sure that amount of money. So now some of the awards you see behind me now are awards that of charities have given me. And I know that you
Awesome.
and Jessica have
Yeah.
stepped into that realm. And there's nothing better than stand in front of a group of strangers and have someone acknowledge you for helping them with their purpose and their cause.
For
It's a
sure.
it's a whole different world. So
It's
I
awesome, man.
yeah. So
Very
there's my
cool.
secret weapon.
I like it. I like it. So I got a little bit more here. First, just to reflect, um, I mean, I didn't finish high school on time. And I should have been arrested. But God didn't have that in the playbook. I got away with all I did in high school. Um, but I know, you taking that, like kind of like, my relationship. I never had a good relationship with my father. And, there's definitely, looking back, there's definitely things that I did to try to fill a hole, to try to fit in, to try to get people to like me. If only I did this thing, then they would like me. And, so that was your beer run, right? Literally,
Yeah.
your beer run was, let me try to get you guys to like me because I have a hole and I'm
Or
trying to fill it with
or
something.
be the best auto mechanic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let me impress you. And so, I get that because I didn't get it as early as you, but I've been trying to fill a hole my whole life
Yeah.
that was only filled like 3 months ago. I tried to fill it with money and awards and recognition and then all kinds of other things. Earlier was more destructive, and later was what society would say is more productive, but it still didn't fill the hole.
Yeah.
And it was until I gave my life to Christ that I felt that hole be filled.
Yeah.
Um,
When you don't feel enough,
yeah,
when you don't feel enough and you don't feel like you're a miracle,
yeah,
we all got separate DNA. Trying to fill that with any kind of accolades or money or rewards
yeah,
or homes or whatever, then what you do is you start self-sabotaging.
right, right,
So now you're like, I'm not worthy of this stuff. You know what I
yeah,
mean? What is it like? You're a pretender. What is that?
imposter,
Yeah, the imposter. It's like, I'm not deserving of this stuff. This is
right,
ridiculous. Um,
right.
when I my whole goal one time was to buy a Rolls Royce off the showroom floor. I didn't even want to negotiate for it. And I did it right before training. Pretty suspicious, that I could pull up in this training in Las Vegas with a brand new Rolls Royce Ghost. And when I signed the papers and we drove it off the lot, I drove it off the lot and then I got out and I brought this friend with me. And he said, wow, Robert, I've just never seen anything like this. And I said, well, we got to get to the training. I said, you want to drive? I realized I just dumped $330,000 on a frickin' car and I didn't even want to drive it.
Right.
I let somebody else drive it. That's messed up when and I know
Yeah.
you've done that too, where you
Oh
purchase
yeah.
like a new home or whatever, and then you walk in and went, God, it could have lasted a day.
Yeah.
It could have lasted 2 days. And after you take videos of it and show the world that you accomplished with, it's like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah.
The hole's still there.
Yeah. And it's, like one of Tony Robbins' quotes I like is, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Yep.
Because it's easy for the person that doesn't have success to say, well, if only, or well, when and then you get there and you're like, well, crap, that wasn't right. And I worked so hard. And like, what do I do now? Because you thought you accomplished what you need to accomplish.
Well, according to
Um,
the world. According to the
according to the
world.
world.
You
Yeah,
pulled it off, man.
exactly.
Good job, you
Yeah,
pulled it off.
exactly. Um, and so, yeah, the hole was not filled by anything that I tried, no matter what it was, until I found God and gave my life to Christ. And so I want to ask you this. So you were in a situation, you had nothing else to read. So you read that little red testament. Um, those on here, they have every option. They can watch Netflix. They can walk outside. They can walk the dog. They can gossip with their neighbors. They can do about anything. If someone's on here and they're wanting to fill that hole, they wanted to fill the wound, the hole, whatever, they're wanting to, figure this thing out. What would be a first step for them, or what would be a first couple steps for them?
The first step that I am going to suggest, it's always right in front of me, is if you haven't read this book, Og Mandino, The Greatest Miracle in the World, um,
I haven't
I
read that.
you need to read this book.
Okay.
And when you read this book, Ray, for you and for some of the people that might know me, call me when you're done. Call me when you're done. Leave me a message on how the book impacted you. And if you follow, I think it's Albert Einstein that says you either believe that everything's a miracle, or you believe nothing's a miracle.
Right.
Uh, you need to find out what the greatest miracle in the world is.
Hmm.
And when you read this, things will fall into place very, very, very quickly. It gives you a assignment to do. And for those of you that think this is a religious book, a God book, or whatever, um, I'm not skirting away from that. I just need you to understand that, you know, this is the one that did it for me. That's the one that I share with people. And then I talk to them that read it and follow the assignment. And I'd say that 98% of the people that I've ever touched in my life never did network marketing. In fact, when
Mm,
I did the company
powerful.
I'm in right now, I purposely did not connect with anybody of my previous companies or my previous deal. I started from scratch. I wanted to prove that I could use the way I believed with God's guidance to find people, ask them to be the doorway. And it's I got 155 producing front levels, and it's still working. It's still working.
Awesome.
um, the second step is you become who you hang around.
Mm,
You got a million questions. They're not going to go away. I'll be 61 in February. I know less now. I have more questions now. I'm more at peace now with not knowing than any time in my life.
mm,
And even Ray, you and I were talking. I reached out and asked Ray, and for those of you that might be able to answer this question, the first time that I got on stage after doing a testimonial, I fell to my knees
mm.
and raised my hands up and said, "You got to ask for help. You got to ask for help." And I remember doing that when I've spoken for you, Ray, and that's here's the analogy. Every one of us knows what a speaker is. A speaker is something that we hear sound from. Uh, don't have it hooked to Bluetooth. Don't have it connect to a wire. Uh, it's nothing. You connect it to an amplifier, and then you have someone that knows how to tune it in.
Nice.
And when you're connected like that, I've walked off stage, Ray, and said to people, "Can I get the audio for that? Because that was freaking awesome." And I there's stuff that I've said on stage that I've never ever said ever,
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
ever. And that's when you can surrender. So then you and I, Ray, have seen speakers in front of the room, and it's like we know exactly we can finish the phrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're basically speakers in front of the room, but they're not connected.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's
That show, that's already in my limited time here, it's already showing up. I was just on a coaching call with someone, and I'm just pinpointing this is where you're stuck, and they're like, "Wow, you're really intuitive," and I'm in this weird place. I'm trying to figure out how to handle this because I know it wasn't me, but I also don't want, I don't know, is it pumping myself up to say, yeah, that's Holy Spirit? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, I'm kind of in this, I'm like, so I said, thank you, but I know it's not me.
right.
And, and so I don't know, I'm in this interesting place where I'm just grateful. And I think afterwards,
Yeah,
um,
just trust that guidance and utterance more.
yeah,
So
amen.
there's times where I was going, whoa, they're freaking out right now. Should I tell them where that download came from? And man, it's been just clear as a bell. No, don't. I got them.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that more because I've seen it where people do that, and I'm like, I remember. Uh, listen, you'll love this story. Okay, so one of my mentors was Mark Overson, and he created Solomon CEO. So he's his office was in a church, right? They bought
Mhm.
a church, and he had stained glass windows and everything, and he told me this story where there was a young kid at his church, and I think he played the violin or something. And he said, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, bud, great job." And he goes, "Oh, it's all God." And he said, "Well, it wasn't that good."
Perfect. Perfect.
So,
I love
that's a
Mark
good
was
story.
Mark. I never got a chance to spend any personal time with Mark, but
Yeah,
that's a definite. My little light will shine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, and to think that he's still doing things for people, after that. And
totally.
Ray, all I have to say is I know in the limited time I'm looking forward to doing chapter 2, 3, 4, and 755 with you. And
Yeah,
and one of the things that's very unique is I know this is not scripture. I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't even pretend to be. And that's not my path. That's my path is to pique interest and connect them. I do that now. I do that in my spiritual life.
yeah,
Do the
yeah,
proper praise and recognition to the authority that needs to go to, tell my
yeah,
testimonial and get them plugged in to wherever they
yeah,
need to be plugged in. And I just have this thought in my mind, a vision. Vision inspires success in others now. And I was weeping for hours after this, but I seen myself going to wherever we're going, so let's call it heaven. And I went up there, and all that was said to me was, what did you do with the years that I've given you to deserve to come into the gates? And I about ready to open my mouth, and there was millions of people up there that were like, let him in, let that guy in. And I was just standing there bawling, and he smiles and,
mhm,
good and faithful work, my son. And that
nice.
was, so I'm I know there's a lot of people that are up there like Mark, and
Yeah,
you know maybe what if that was, I know it's not based on any works that a
right,
person gets to heaven, but
right.
wouldn't that be neat? We could visualize that as a mission, that there's literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are already up there going, that guy made the impact for me. He was the bold one for
Yeah,
me.
I love it. That's awesome. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Robert, thank you, man. You've uplifted a lot of people, including myself. Just I've never heard all of that from your story, and just really, really appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming out
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks for being you. And if you got value from this, share this. Share it around. Who else needs to hear this? Um, be that doorway. And awesome, man. I really appreciate you, Robert. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Love and appreciate you. Goodbye,
Yeah.
everyone. I
All
believe in
right.
you. I believe in you.
Yes. Yes. Drop them some love. Give them some gratitude. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Bye bye.